Please welcome warmly the wizard, the poet, the hypnotherapist, my fiance, Devin Person.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here.
Hi, Devin. Thank you so much for being here. And really, to just get us warmed up for our writing today, I wanted to ask you a little bit. A lot of the people in the room here don't really identify as a poet per se, but are exploring poetry as a new form of writing for them and a way to kind of stretch those muscles. So I would love for you can first off just kind of identify yourself and share anything you'd like to kind of ground us in who you are, but then sort of weave in, if you would, a little bit about what it means to write poetry and to use the art of poetry to enrich your work.
Absolutely. So, as my fiance lovingly said, I am a wizard. Right now, I'm at home. I'm dressed casually, but I have a pointy hat, robes, long sleeves, the whole 9 yards. And that all came about because I was approaching my 30s, living in New York City, and I kind of was leaving one dream and looking for my next, and realized the world is just going to keep getting weirder. And if I try and do something that's in vogue at that moment, by the time I've caught up, AI is going to take that job. It's going to be gone. It's not going to exist. So I said, let's just swing for the fences, and I'm going to make up something that's not currently in this reality and let everybody kind of catch up to me instead. So the way that I see wizardry, because I know there's a lot of different kinds of magic and spirituality these days, but for me, wizardry is all about helping people and using a sense of humor and having what I call the wider perspective. So it's sort of a little bit meta, that kind of other view of what's going on. And I think one of the most interesting ways we can have that meta view is to think about the story of our lives, not just one day at a time as we're living it, but, imagining when someone one day is going to write an obituary or a eulogy for you, how is that story going to play out? And that can let you have a little bit more self-care and patience in the trying and uncertain moments, and more joy in those moments of connection when suddenly you go to a work holiday party and you meet the love of your life. And that's the framework that I see magic in. I think magic is about actively co-creating the story of your life with the universe, as an active participant. And that doesn't mean the universe just does whatever you want when you snap your fingers. That's a very boring story. No one likes a story where once upon a time there was a person who got everything they wanted. It all came easily. The end. We like conflict and we like surprise. So I think if you imagine, looking for a job or trying to find a relationship or getting over a difficult period, um, you can think about just the kind of normal way that we'd go through that. But if you use magic, if you say, I created a ritual about my dream job, and then serendipitously at this party, somebody connected me with this and this, that's a story that you're going to tell at dinner parties for a very long time. So for me, magic is a way that we can kind of be more active in creating those stories and all of the fun moments and difficult ones that go along with it. And then in my work as a hypnotherapist, that's literally what I do with clients. I help them start their story at, I've been having this problem. I finally reached out to a hypnotist to do something different. And that's exactly what we do when we use the power of imagination and storytelling, to create that change. So then they can be at a dinner party saying, oh man, I used to have this phobia and it held me back from all of these things. And now look at me. I'm flying on planes and I've quit smoking and I've made all these changes. So I help them tell that story.
That's so beautiful. I'm so impressed by your work. And uh, I was thinking, I think a lot about this actually, because as someone who was raised on like Harry Potter, to accidentally meet and fall in love with a wizard is pretty poetic. And
Hmm.
I think about, what is the balance and the relationship between the idea of magic and the idea of like writing and poetry. And if you just look at the word spell, you
Hmm.
cast a spell, but you spell a word.
Hmm.
Word writing is spelling. So do you ever think about that? And like, can you just talk a little bit about how you choose your words and make them magical? And then I'd love to invite you to share a piece of your own writing.
Sure. So I think one of the most long-standing ideas of magic is it's about relation. So it is connecting, as above, so below. It's connecting some little symbolic thing with some larger event. And so, people in caves were drawing a picture of here's a hunt going really well, so we don't starve. And we hope that by creating that image, it comes to fruition in reality. Um, in Egypt and many other cultures, writing for a very long time was only the priest caste that had this ability to store information and symbols, and that was considered very powerful. Naming something is a form of magic. So I think for any and all of us, I think that's why we're here today, is this is a moment for us to engage in something which is very easy to overlook how magical it is. We're creating something out of nothing. We're going to get a prompt and we're going to go into that strange imaginal realm which exists within us, but also within culture. And also sometimes kind of seems like it goes beyond all of that to pull out a story, to pull out a collection of words that then let us have that wider perspective where we can go, oh, that's how I'm feeling this week, or that's where I want to go, or that's what I'm looking forward to, or this is on the top of my mind. So I think it's an engagement with the unknown and an awareness of the self.
Wow, it's like you just said that so eloquently. Devin also has a podcast that he records live, so he's a very fluent speaker. I'm just very impressed. So, you're a fluent speaker.
In
You've proven
English.
that. But how are you at writing? What does your writing sound like? Read us something you've written, and then let's go into the
Sure.
prompt, Micah.
So I wanted to read a piece that I wrote last time I joined the narrative method. And I think the prompt had something to do with the allegory of the cave from Plato. So I'm just going to jump right into it. Sometimes I miss the flickering shadows. The air is fresher here in the fields beyond where the summer winds blow tall grasses that sway as a single body, even though we've discovered they're really just single strands close up. And the sky paints pictures for us now, a vastness above our heads, shifting from stunning blues to somber gray before returning again and again to an infinite black speckled with lights, tiny and bright, too many to ever count. The sky is beautiful, and the space here shows us how much grander the world is than we could ever imagine. And yet, sometimes I lay awake and miss the flickering shadows. The others do too. I know because we whisper in the dark, telling stories about back when all we did, all we knew, was huddling in the dark, watching the shadows tell their stories. Stories we thought were all that was and ever would be. But now we know more. The world isn't a closed box. It's a bigness that gets bigger in every direction. So we roam further and further, away from the cave and its crowded memories and difficult nostalgia. Because memories of a life remembered, but never truly lived, aren't really memories, if that makes sense. They're more like shadows of memories, echoes of experience, the scent of a meal never eaten. Walking, talking, sleeping, exploring, we roam. One day, past gushing rivers and steep, scrambling mountains, we came to a city. Well, that's what they told us it was called. But it looked a lot like a cave to us. Here in this strange city cave, the people carried their flickering shadows everywhere they went, and their chains were odd. They didn't wear them on their ankles or hands like we had. They kept their chains at home. Each night they came home and chained their boxes of flickering shadows to the wall. To charge, they told us. But charges and chains are both restraints, burdens. We wandered through their city, their cave, and watched them carry their boxes of shadows everywhere. The people moved through a large world, but their eyes were held down, staring always at their small shadows. And they gathered more all the time, scraping shadows from sunsets, meals, smiles, moments, forever scraping shadows to show each other, flickering in their boxes, as if to say, see how small and flat we can make our world. But we came from the cave. We know all too well what it is to be small and to live in shadow. And while I might miss the flickering shadows at night, when the sky is so bright and big, I worry it will swallow me whole, I know that I am ready for new stories told in the light.
Thank you so much, Devin.
Mhm.
Uh, I I'm not going to cuss in front of my mom who's on who's on this Zoom, but know that I would because I'm that excited. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now and we'll move into a little bit of writing.